Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode 24 of the Film School podcast. This Monday, the 18th of January 2021. I'm joined by an illustrious group of guests. We have none other than Josh J. Luke. How you doing, Josh? Happy New Year.
Good thanks, mate. Happy New Year. Welcome back, everyone.
Yep, we have the final girl, Emily Pratt.
Hey, Adam.
Hey. And last but not least, we have Chris Birchie. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, Adam. Hey, Emily. Hey, Josh.
Hey, mate.
Hello.
I just had to do that. I just had to do that after Emily's intro.
So for those of you who don't know, the Film School podcast is a podcast where we talk about all the movies that we've watched throughout the week. And we usually nominate two main topic movies. This week, however, we've been on hiatus because we're all enjoying our holidays and our time off. So we're just going to do a big roundup on all the films that we watched over the break and just sort of discuss what we liked and what we didn't like. You can follow us on all podcast services, youtube.com/filmschoolpod and Instagram and Twitter, filmschoolpod. All right, let's start off with two movies. We'll start off with one movie. Let's start off with The Birds. Tell us about it, Em.
Cool. So, over the break, I decided to watch a Hitchcock classic called The Birds, from 1963. I've seen this movie before, but I forgot how fun it was. Basically, it's kind of about this spoiled socialite called Melanie Daniels, who's like shopping in a pet store when she runs into this guy called Mitch, who's a lawyer, and he's looking to buy a pair of lovebirds for his younger sister's birthday. He recognizes Melanie because she's in the newspapers and stuff like that, but kind of pulls a bit of a joke on her by pretending to mistake her for just an assistant. So she decides to kind of like get back at him by buying the lovebirds that he couldn't get that day and driving like an hour and a half away to this like little coastal town north of San Francisco to actually drop them off to Mitch, who's going to be there at his mother's house for the weekend, which I'd forgotten how elaborate all of that was, and it seems like quite a big effort to do go and do that to like a stranger. But anyway,
You missed the boat as well, the hiring a boat to get across the river.
That's right, and because she
Or the
wants to
lake.
she even goes to like the trouble of like hiring this little boat to kind of get sail across the water to the house that he's in instead of driving because she doesn't want him to see her coming. So yeah, very elaborate. But anyway, so she drops off the birds, and as she's like making her way back to the main part of town, she gets attacked by a bird. And from here on in, that's kind of the whole host of attacks by even more birds. So all of a sudden all of these birds randomly start attacking the town and no one can figure out why. But yeah, I really loved this movie. Like, obviously, going into a Hitchcock movie, you know you're probably going to be watching something that's going to be pretty good. This didn't disappoint in any way. I found it. I know I probably wasn't meant to find it funny or as funny as I did. But I think there were definitely like some of the dialogue is meant to be entertaining, which it was. And then also some of the effects for like the birds. Like they definitely haven't dated that well, but considering it's from the 60s, like you can't knock Hitchcock for like doing what he did and still pulling it off to a pretty good standard, I would say. So who else has seen this one?
Yeah, so I saw it as well. That scene at the end, Emily, where you know the scene towards the end where there's all the birds outside? That was real, wasn't it? Was that do you remember, do you know how many birds there were?
I think I remember reading that they still used it was either hundreds or thousands. Like it was still an impressive amount of like live birds that they'd actually like trained to be in a lot of the scenes. So that was kind of cool.
I haven't seen it. Have you seen it, Josh?
I have seen this. I didn't see this until probably my early 20s because even though I'd seen most of the Hitchcock classics when I was in high school just through media and everything, this one was sort of taboo in my household because shout out to my lovely sister who was a little bit older than me and had, when we were growing up, a crippling phobia of birds to the point where like even clips of this movie would make her cry.
Yeah, this does not help.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Like, no one really loves birds, do they? Like,
Well,
us are
no,
bird
but
people.
no one like sort of
Bird watchers.
like my
True.
sister was deathly afraid. There was actually she had a troubling experience when she was a child with a bird snatching food out of her hand, and it just scarred her for like the first probably 30 years of her life.
No.
Mm.
Yeah, I can see why you wouldn't put this on
Yeah.
around her then.
But it is still very good. It's definitely up there with the classic Hitchcock horror.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's a
haven't
really
seen
good
it.
movie.
Yeah, I've heard so many.
Oh, you
good
go,
things.
Adam.
Yeah, I was about to say I haven't seen it. I've heard so many good things about it, and I know it's like a staple that you like need to watch because obviously Alfred Hitchcock's made it.
I don't know if you read my letterbox review for this one, Adam. I just pulled it up to have a look at what I wrote.
No.
And I actually have a shout out to you at the end where I say, in the words of my good friend Adam, they don't make movies like this anymore. So I feel like you need to go watch it after that.
When did I
You
say
gotta
that?
Hey guys, don't tell
You
Adam
always
that
say
we have a
You
drinking game.
always.
Don't tell Adam that we've got this drinking game. That every time he says that we have a drink. That's why we're drunk at the end of the podcast. Like he doesn't know.
What? When do I say that? I've heard.
All the time.
Do I? Okay. Fascinating.
Maybe not all the time.
All
but
right,
often.
let's move on to the next movie.
Let's try and forget that, and we'll point it out like the third time you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The app that stole Christmas. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so as the title suggests, it's to do with an app that stole Christmas. So it's obviously a really good movie. From 2020, directed by Monica Floyd, and the budget is 10,000 US roughly. So a very very big budget here. So box
Can't
office
shit
type
on it
movie.
too much.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. So I kind of feel like even though I'm giving it a poor rating, it was only 10,000. So that's a good effort. So the basic sort of premise behind it is there's a tech entrepreneur and he creates this Christmas shopping app that's a big success. However, he starts to realize that invention or that app is ruining the holiday spirit. When he's at work, he gets knocked out and is in a bit of a coma for numerous days. But in his mind, he's actually at the North Pole building toys and essentially learning about the Christmas spirit. So there is one point to the movie, and all it is pretty much what I've said, but it's to spend more time with those around you rather than being consumed with things like apps and phones. And it actually says on the synopsis, Christmas is about presents, not present. So yeah. My sort of feeling was it took me 3 sittings to get through it.
Oof.
And it goes for a runtime of 63 minutes, I think.
Oh,
So it took me a little bit to get through. So just avoid watching. The only reason you'd watch it is kind of like me. The reason I went through the 3 sittings was I wanted to get a mark down the bottom on my letterbox graph just to be more aesthetically pleasing or a bit more balanced. So yeah, I think I gave it a 0.5 star.
Well, just like looking online, it looks like only 170 people have even watched this film. There's only 70 reviews.
Thank God.
and
I'm in there. I've done it. I'm one of them.
Say I'm never gonna be one of them.
Yep, I'm the same. This is a.
I don't know, Adam. I don't know about you. Like, there's a chance that this is gonna go.
Adam will watch it. Adam will have an hour that he needs to watch, or he'll have a date or something, and this will be it.
Yeah.
And then it'll be like, oh yeah, it's a 3.
All
Not
right.
bad.
Well,
all right. Next movie.
Next movie. If we get to next Christmas, and I remember that film, I'm gonna make us all watch it on my week just to piss you off, Josh.
Can't wait.
All right. The next film we watched was Promising Young Woman. So I know that 3 of us have seen this. So the premise is a 30-year-old woman has a friend who was sexually abused at a party during her college years, and she then makes it her mission to go to clubs and pretend to be in a drunk state. When men try and take advantage of her, she then puts them in their place and teaches them that that's freaking retarded.
Just going to butt in there, Adam.
Sorry?
Just to add to that, it's the main bit about it is no one believes her, or no one takes it seriously. So that was the reason. So yeah, so when she's sexually abused, no one took it seriously.
Yeah, and then the college friends ends up committing suicide, and that I guess that's the whole premise of the plot, and it leads right through to her trying to exact revenge on the people that led to her friend's demise. What were your thoughts on the film while I pull it up and grab some of the actors' names and who directed it?
Well, I can tell you that Carey Mulligan was the leading lady for this one, and she was really good. I haven't yeah, and haven't actually seen that many of her other movies, but like the ones that I can remember, like she didn't really do much for me in them. But yeah, she was outstanding in this. And I really liked the movie overall. I think I gave it like a 4.5. The main thing I remember like commenting on to Adam while we were watching this was like the color palette is just like beautiful. Like it's a really oh no, sorry, that was Adam's thing. My thing was framing. Um,
Yeah.
like yeah, just either way though, like visually really beautiful movie. I was really engaged the whole way through as well. Like I just kind of wanted to know what was going to happen next. But yeah, at the same time, like it's not not a movie that's going to leave you like feeling good in any way. But yeah, still definitely worth watching.
Yeah, this is definitely one of like the highest rated films for me for last year. I gave this a 5. I think that yeah, as Emily said, the color palette for me was definitely stood out along with the framing. It's directed by Emerald Lily Fennell, who's only shot one other movie, so like this is her second film, and I think that's like a great considering. Oh wait, and her only other directed film was 13 minutes, so this is her full feature length film.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
It has Bo Burnham, Alison Brie, Laverne Cox, Jennifer Coolidge. I don't know if, but yeah, like I think the only critique and the only reason that this like would not be considered like a perfect movie on my behalf was that it painted a picture where all men are scumbags. And like I think Emily and I were arguing after we saw the film, and Chris as well, that Emily thought that the lawyer was had redeeming qualities, and he did, but I feel like I don't know, it just painted the male race as like terrible people.
Male race.
Not
What race are we?
No, male gender. Sorry. But,
I'm not sitting here and copying a not all men argument on this podcast.
I'm not,
Get to the next movie.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying that like it would have been. I don't know. Maybe I'm shitting myself in the foot by even arguing.
I think you might be.
I feel like I'm gonna shut up. Any thoughts, Chris? Because I know that you've seen it as well.
Yeah, so Adam, I will slightly back you up there, just with the
Don't
what?
avoid it at all
No?
costs.
Okay, I'll avoid that. Yeah, so no, all men are bad. Let's continue. No, it was a really good movie though. So I did like her the way it was set to it. Had that sort of pulpy type fictiony type feel about it. They had the scene 1, scene 2, scene 3 or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
The different acts.
Split it into
different acts. And there was one part that I really loved. So some of the revenge bits were like good, but maybe not as good as they could have been. But one part was awesome when this is a bit of a spoiler, so I suppose don't listen to this if you wanted to watch it. But the Dean Walker, so the Dean that was there when her friend was sexually assaulted. So when Nina was sexually assaulted, the main character Cassandra goes into the office, or beforehand she'd actually found the Dean's daughter, and managed to convince her to go to a certain location because of some person or something that she'd liked. But she's went to the Dean with and pretty much essentially said that she's got her daughter in a room with a bunch of college guys, and just to see how her reaction would have been to that, and how she didn't, initially respond well enough to the circumstance, or take it seriously enough. So yeah, I thought it was really well done, that scene. I probably didn't explain it well, but it was done. Yeah, it was done exceptionally well.
Yeah, it's definitely not like a feel good movie. Like it's very serious. So just keep that in mind. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's jump on to the next film. But I think like unanimously agree. Recommend that film. All right. The next one is Spree. So, man, I should really prepare and tell you more about what Spree. But Spree has the guy from Stranger Things, and his
Joe
name.
Keery, I think, is it?
It is. Yes, Joe Keery. And I think that he is the standalone actor. There's lots of like side characters, but he is the main point of call. And the principle of this film is that he wants to be a social media influencer and has been a social media influencer for about 10 years. And he only ever averages like 5 to 10 videos, very much like my own career online. And then he becomes unhinged and slowly goes on a rampage and starts killing people, and then the viewers start coming in, and it's essentially. I don't know. I thought it was very well done, like the way that they use all the different filters and like running through Instagram Live and like Twitch counts and all those sorts of things. It's really like a cerebral experience. What I thought it was. It was very much what's the word for it? Just like really weird to watch on a TV and like in a film setting. I think Emily and Chris found the same thing. Do you guys want to add some comments?
Yeah, I think too because when we all started watching this, we like didn't have any like phone reception to see what it was going to be about. It was just on a USB from Josh. So we were like, oh yeah, we'll check this out. So when it started off with like that setting of it being all through like a camera lens sort of thing, or like, framed in a video, like I don't know how to describe it. Like, yeah, we were kind of like, oh, is this just part of the introduction? Like, is this going to be the whole thing? Like, we didn't in for, which I think added to it. But yeah, I quite enjoyed this as well. Thought it was a bit different, which was good. And yeah, again, kept me kind of just wondering where things were going to end up and how serious things were going to get.
Yeah, pretty much the same. It was like pretty bizarre, the movie, like some of the scenes that happened, which was, some of the dialogue was interesting, and not a bad sort of social commentary on how people do live, about trying to get likes and followers and so forth, on their online accounts and stuff. Yeah, I didn't mind it. I don't think I liked it as much as you guys, but it still was definitely a decent movie.
I knew when I watched this that Adam would sort of resonate with this, sort of like I did, because Joe Keery has clearly been down as many YouTube rabbit holes as we probably both have,
Yep.
because he nailed every single he nailed it, and that's what got this the extra half star. Like, I think it's probably a 3-star movie max,
Yep.
but I thought 3.5 just came from. I was like, I've seen these type of people, and now I'm scared.
Yeah. You definitely the whole time watching it, like you definitely know these people. Yeah, it was fascinating. All right, let's move on to another terrible movie. And Emily, I want you to tell the plot for it. We're talking about Nomadland.
Oh,
I was going to say
well,
I'm happy
okay,
to do this one
so-
if you want me to.
Oh, sure, whatever.
Keep
Yeah,
it
actually,
as
it's the
spoiler-free
only
as possible.
one I prepared for.
yeah, Josh is going to watch this one, so no spoilers.
Oh, okay, no spoilers, cool. All right, so it's 2020 American independent film. There was directed by Chloe Zhao. I'm definitely saying that wrong. Based on a non-fiction book from 2017 of a similar name, and it has a family, a film school favorite, Frances McDormand, is the main character. Why am I having a mental blank on her name? Fern. And yeah, so the main sort of idea behind it is that there's this town called Empire, where there's a sheet rock plant in it, and that goes bust during the recession. So I'm assuming this is around 2010, 11 when it finally goes bust. And the whole postcode is white. So, they were living there, but they didn't own the places. So everything pretty much they've lost. And so it's kind of that sort of story that does happen a lot, in particular in America, with the poor, the lower class, and the people with having poor welfare system and stuff like that. So then the main character Fern decides to, with what money she has and belongings she has, sells most of them to buy a van, and then travels across seasonal type stuff. So there's a bit at Amazon, there's a bit like at a rock store, and all this sort of little work she does, and just follows her, I suppose, existence from day to day, and just trying to survive. And there's a lot of bleakness in it, but there is some positivity in the way that these people are trying to get through, even though they're in quite poor circumstances. So that was my brief little intro to it.
Sounds like I'm gonna absolutely adore it.
Yeah, this reeks of a Josh film.
Yeah.
And I think when we were all watching it, the first half did not capture me or it didn't capture me in the slightest.
Didn't capture
Yeah,
any of us in the
we
slightest.
weren't invested at all,
We
at all in the
we
start.
had
Yeah.
we had like we paused and like went and did an activity and then came back and watched the last half of the film. And the last half of the film, thankfully, had some nice redeeming qualities. But yeah, that first half was a slog. Like personally, like I didn't see. Like I get that it's supposed to be a slice of life, but there was nothing that I personally was taking away from the film. I was probably the one who least liked the film. I think even by the end of it, for me it was just way too slow. Like I think that it lost all of the magic of what have always envisaged, like traveling on the road. Like it just didn't seem like she was having a good time, and like I guess that's because like she'd never set herself up for the real life. Like to do that as an enjoyable task, she's doing it to live. But yeah, I don't know. This really like as a critically acclaimed film now, and probably one that's going to get an Oscar nom. Yeah, personally didn't do anything for me.
Her acting was really good though. Like the way she portrayed the character, I think she did an excellent job there. But I do agree that I don't know whether it's because we're in Australia and like there is circumstances like this, but probably not to the extent that it happens in America. So I think people from the US would probably resonate with it a lot more than we do. But yeah, like it definitely has a solid message there, about the social classes and the differences and a lot of the flaws in the US system. But yeah, it was very slow to watch.
I think it needs to be said that my co-hosts generally have a tendency to not love slow movies, even if they are sort of deliberate
That's
slow
not
burns.
true.
That is 100% true, Adam.
Well,
It's definitely
true for me.
deliberately slow. Yeah, it's deliberately slow. So they're not
I'm not
sorry.
saying
It's definitely purposeful. Yeah.
it wasn't an insult at all. It's just that some people don't enjoy slow burn movies. It's definitely a like because I'll point out some example. Well, I don't even need to point out examples for Em, but definitely, Adam, you have a tendency to not enjoy slow movies as much. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a preference in movie style.
Okay, yeah, I probably tend to say that's fair. And
Yeah, I think some people like will definitely love this movie and get a lot out of it. Like even for me, like after the first half like couldn't sit still during it, but the second half like there were definitely some moments that I was like really like taken with. And I did also cry at one point.
mind you, between that set, we got very inebriated.
Yeah.
like I don't know if that enhanced the film, and I'm
I think it
suspecting
did.
I feel
I
like
think it definitely did.
Yeah,
I
it
reckon,
did.
if we did the whole thing under that state of mind, we might have had a very different experience.
5
So,
stars.
yeah.
So Josh, really, like we need you to
Yeah.
watch this, provide us with some feedback, and give us like a sound review.
Josh will love it. Josh will give it a 5.
I don't know
calling
if I definitely don't know if I'll give it a 5.
All right,
I'm going to say 4. I'm going
4.
4.
I can't see it getting below a 4, but that's because I love Frances McDormand. So
all right, let's move on. And Josh, I want you to tell me about the movie that you watched.
well, I won't actually talk about a movie. I'll talk about the first TV series we've really mentioned on here, and that's because it's a Star Wars TV show, so it sort of fits into the movie podcast theme. I'm not going to talk about it for long. I'm just going to... One of our good friends, Justin Lyon, was hounding me to watch this, and I did. So I watched The Mandalorian.
Did you watch seasons 1 and 2?
No, I'd already seen season 1.
Okay.
So I'd seen season 1. And what I was doing was I was waiting for all the episodes to be out so I could just binge it and get it like all done at once, sort of watch it in movie form, because some of the episodes are only a half an hour. And I thought the season was good overall. There was some big name directors who hopped on here. Jon Favreau is obviously the showrunner and directed the first episode. Peyton Reed, who's directed the Ant-Man movies. Carl Weathers directed an episode, who is in Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's also Apollo Creed in Rocky. Yeah.
Cool.
Robert Rodriguez directed an episode, who's a really famous director, friends with Quentin Tarantino. So a lot of big names on both the production, and not as many guest stars this season. Timothy Olyphant was in it, which was really cool. He basically played a space version of his character from Deadwood. But in terms of the quality of sort of each episode, I found the first 4 episodes were it's just like I was watching a show. But the last 4 episodes definitely picked it up, and it ended up being pretty good, and I had no problem getting through it. So, yeah, gets a couple of thumbs up from me. I don't really rate TV shows because it's hard to give a set rating to something where one episode may be like of quite terrible quality and one thing may be a 5 out of 5. So, good. If you're into Star Wars, go and watch it. If you're not, don't.
Yeah. Well, like I think that like if we include some TV shows, we're eventually going to get to WandaVision and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, I have no interest in Star Wars. Does anyone else?
Didn't think so.
No.
I don't mind it, but I don't watch it enough to remember it. So,
Yeah, that's fair.
Fair enough. All right. So I watched Monster Hunter, the 2020 film directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, based on the video game property by Capcom. I went into this film being I played a lot of Monster Hunter World, and I have not played a whole bunch of the other ones. The film stars Mila, what's her name? Mila Jovovich.
Oh,
And-
hell, yeah, we're not great with accents.
yeah, anyways, she, I guess, is the face of video game movies, I would say, when she's also in Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
Look, the
Also
film,
direct.
going, like, you look at a title called Monster Hunter, you know you're in for something stupid. Like, you're not in for anything that's going to be, like, amazing. The story isn't way better than I ever anticipated it would be. Way better. Like, could not even describe to you. I thought that, like, the premise of, like, people from Earth going into, like, another world was, like, the dumbest premise from the trailer. It works. You know, like, I think that they never take itself too seriously. And the action is heaps of fun. It definitely made me download Monster Hunter again and start playing it. The action scenes were really, really good. The monster design, like the CG, I think was like what was the standout. The CG was so good right up until like the very final scene, and then it looked so green screened and keyed out. But like, I guess all I can say is if you want a dumb action film that doesn't overstay its welcome, knows exactly what it is, and is just like fun. Like, go into it and think people versus giant monsters. That's it. Like, I know that if you're into the lore of Monster Hunter, it's definitely not gonna like fit that need because like it definitely doesn't like align with any of that lore. But if you want to see like a person run around with a big giant sword and yelling Diablos, then this is a great film.
5-star film according to Adam.
5-star film.
Okay.
It was
so,
like right when I needed it. Like, you know, perfect. It was perfect.
So none of us have seen this. Most likely, none of us are ever going to watch this. So the 2 comments I will make to our audience is that this has a 2.2 average on Letterboxd,
Does it?
and
Yeah, it does.
so
I'm the only
Adam
one
had been
who gave it a 5.
Adam had been quite inoffensive with his ratings recently, so he hadn't really had much hate. But as soon as he dropped this, like before I even saw it, I got a screenshot from Joel Dusha with the comments sweating with anger on your 5-star review.
Amazing.
So shout out to Joel, you've done the work for us, and yeah,
Yep.
it's
Great.
an Adam 5-star movie. Next movie.
All right, next movie is we'll do Josh's film, and Josh watched, what was it called?
I'll go over Corpus Christi
Corpus
first. I think.
Christi, that's right.
So yesterday I went to the movies for the first time in over a year, and I went to sort of an art housey cinema in Brunswick, and I saw a movie I've been wanting to see for months and months. As Adam actually knows, I suggested it like
The trailer
late,
for this looks
late
fantastic.
last year. It's called Corpus Christi. It's a Polish film. It's directed by Jan Komasa, and it tells the story of a juvenile delinquent who starts off the film in juvie, and he sort of found God and everything through his time in juvie, and he ideally wanted to become a preacher or a sort of priest, but the father at the juvenile detention center told him, like, look, that doesn't happen around here. Once you've been in juvie, you don't really have many choices except for manual labor. So he's sent to work at a sawmill in a small town. But on arrival, he sees like his future pretty much and realizes that, no, I'm just gonna go on my own and see what happens. And he goes to church in this small town and he introduces himself to one of the young girls, and she jokes around and says she's a nun, so he says he's a priest. And he has a priest outfit there, so she's like, "Oh, you're the person we've been waiting for." And not essentially, they weren't waiting for a priest, but the vicar in this town is very ill, and they sort of needed someone to take over for a while. And he sort of works his way into this role while still being like slightly like he does do his best, and he's a very religious man, but he still has the vices that he would have as a juvenile delinquent and everything like that. And the movie itself revolves around this small town that's gone through quite a traumatic experience, and this young charismatic preacher who sort of wings everything and speaks from his heart and doesn't really care about the actual words in the Bible, but sort of preaches what he feels and everything. It sort of brings people together, and there's this sort of healing process that is attempted throughout the town, because I won't ruin anything. There's a lot of hiccups along the way, but I just loved every single minute of this movie. I couldn't fault it at all. The main performance by a young man named Bartos Belenia is simply electric. You can't take your eyes off him the whole time, and I thought the ending was simply spectacular. And yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to give an international film a try. I know we don't usually have many problems with that, and this is it's not one that's going to go over anyone's head. It's sort of very understandable and very relatable things. And yeah, I just couldn't say a bad word about it.
How was it like going back to a cinema for the first time?
Oh, it was crazy. We had to wear our masks anytime you weren't eating or drinking, and it was quite stuffy, but the fact that I'd been wanting to see this movie, and I honestly had no idea that I'd get the chance to see this at the cinema, and everything working out sort of just made... going in there, I was like, I'm probably going to give this an extra half a star because of it, but nah, this movie didn't need it. I would have given this 5 stars on any viewing, I think. Yeah, I really liked it.
Cool.
It was interesting.
Really cool. Yeah, that definitely sounds like something I'd be interested in checking out. All right, Emily, tell us about To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, so watched another classic film this year, another classic 60s movie. I think this was 1962. Yeah. So yeah, I was inspired to watch this because I just finished reading the book during the day. So I feel like that definitely like tainted my viewing experience, because instead of like watching it as a movie, I was kind of watching it as like an adaptation and being like, oh, they left that out, they changed this, they didn't use that. Ooh. Like, so I got a bit caught up with that. But that being said, so like I think it's a pretty well known that, you know, the book's always going to be better than the movie, and yes, that still is the case in my opinion. But this film actually did a really good job of, capturing like the heart of the book, I feel. I think that like, yep, there was a fair bit of stuff that they kind of omitted, which like is always the case because you can't really fit a 360-page novel inside like a 2-hour movie or whatever. But yeah, it was really good. I just realized I didn't really say what it was about, but yeah,
I don't think you really did. Most people would know, I think.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Honestly, I've got zero idea on what To Kill a Mockingbird.
Adam.
Never read it. Never watched it.
This surprises me less than I hoped it would. All right, Ed, give a short rundown.
Just
all right,
like,
really
sell me on it.
Okay, so it's set in Alabama in 1932.
And
what was that?
And I'm out.
You're out. Oh.
I'm joking. Tell me.
And yeah, it's about this lawyer called Atticus Finch, who is played by Gregory Peck, who is just like phenomenal in the movie. And yeah, he has 2 young children called Jem and Scout. So the novel and like I guess parts of the movie are from the young girl Scout's perspective. And yeah, so Atticus is a lawyer and he is defending a black man called Tom Robinson who's been accused of raping a white woman. And it's all kind of about the the way that he's treated for doing so, because he's I think he's like a public defender, and so he gets like just given the case. But then the rest of the townspeople have a problem with him because he actually does try to defend Tom Robinson, and so yeah, a lot of it's like the two children kind of being like, oh, like why are the neighbors like, yeah, saying that you're an N lover, like, and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's all kind of like looking at like prejudice and racism through like the eyes of a child, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and kind of like just showing like how fucked up it is, I suppose, and how like yeah, it makes no real sense to treat people in that way, I guess. And it's all kind of like done as well, like it's also shown through like this on a smaller scale, because like there's this neighbor that the two young kids are like really really like suspicious of, because they don't know anything about him. He just like stays in his house, and there's all these stories about him, like, you know, stabbing his dad and like random stuff like that. And the dad, just as like Atticus, the dad kind of tells them like, you know, not to be racist, I suppose. He also kind of tells them off for yeah, kind of having beliefs about people which aren't really. Yeah, really good book, but if you can't be bothered with that, definitely watch the movie, Adam, because it does a pretty good job still.
Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome, Adam. Like, you definitely should. If you can read the book, I agree with
Look,
Emily.
it's
Like, the
always
book
been
is
on
better.
it's definitely always been on the list of things. Like everyone knows the name. I didn't even have a concept of what it was about. But cool.
And any English students out there, don't just watch the movie. Read the book.
Yeah,
Definitely.
the book is really good. And the other thing to add to what Emily said was, I just love the way Atticus Finch just deals with every situation. So, you know, even if it's the way he treats his elders with respect, how he treats Tom Robinson with the same respect he would have treated all the white people of the day, and even how he teaches his kids when they are like, the other kids are, you know, saying derogative comments or wanting to fight them and all that sort of thing. He treats them all the morals of, you know, they don't know, but like, you need to be the better person in the situation. So he's just like a great person. So it's
Role
yeah,
model.
the role model that everyone needs.
Yeah.
Cool. Really cool.
Hmm.
All right. Josh, why don't you tell us about Tenet?
All right, I'll tell you about Tenet. So Tenet was 2020's big blockbuster movie directed by Christopher Nolan.
Yep.
And I'm not even going to get into the plot. It's Inception with time instead of dreaming. And look, I've got a bone to pick with you, big Chrissy M. Your writing's not that interesting. All right?
Oh, isn't it?
Putting it out there. You overwrite your shit to make it overly complicated when it's not actually that complicated. But you throw in words so your audience leaves being like, oh, I don't think I was smart enough to understand that. It's like, no. He made it deliberately more stupid than it needed to be to confuse you, so you thought this movie was smarter than it was.
Or he plays the sounds way too loud and then puts all these actors in masks so you can't even fucking make out what they're saying.
Chris, you're directing good action scenes. We get it. This was like probably an hour of good action scenes and an hour and a half of the worst dialogue I've ever heard. And oh my God, talk about it. Do you reckon Christopher Nolan's ever had a conversation with a woman?
No.
Because
so yeah, like, this is my biggest gripe with the whole film.
the one-dimensional female characters in this movie made me so angry that he literally gives them nothing to do except for, they're almost like the NPCs you go to in a video game to get a quest, and then the guys go off and do everything else. The couple of good things I'll say is John David Washington, Denzel's son, was all right in the main lead. Robin Pattinson was pretty good. But yeah, it was just not that interesting. And once you've seen one big block, you've sort of seen them all. I don't think it deserves a really good rating. I think I gave it a 2.5.
I only gave it a 3.
Which is, counts in 2.5, I think. So
Yeah. Like, I think that for me, like, the action scenes, he's a standout action scene director.
100%. Would not deny it.
But yeah, the dialogue in this was just like, ugh. And then I also I think I mentioned this maybe on the last podcast whenever I watched it. I was saying that, like, I just have a problem where Christopher Nolan just seems to, like, set all of his movies in like 500 different countries for no reason. And like, there is literally like a minute scene where
Yeah.
they're in one country, like on
Mhm.
like in Italy, looking out over the ocean, like in that Game of Thrones set,
Yeah.
for no reason, and then they're in
And
another
it's
country, and
yeah.
they
And it's not like in Mission Impossible where it's cool and they do it for a reason and there's big set pieces in every country. It's just like, oh, let's go here. Oh, we got to go 10 weeks back to here or some shit. And I was just like, I don't care.
yeah,
I literally don't care. Bullets go backwards. That's awesome.
yeah,
Cars go backwards. Cool. Just more of that, please. Maybe this movie go for an hour and a half and it might get 3.5 stars.
yeah, exactly. Alrighty, that's Tenet. I'd still say check it out because it is a blockbuster film.
Yeah,
Like,
because
I think
everyone
that
will have seen it, basically.
exactly. Speaking of another blockbuster film that came out on Christmas Day, Wonder Woman 1984. Has anyone seen this?
I haven't, but I'm interested to hear your opinion on it because it's very mixed from what I'm reading.
Heard pretty negative stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I haven't
all
heard
right.
anything.
So, I don't know how this got greenlit as the second film. I think the whole DC universe is totally stuffed, and they have no vision, and it is just fundamentally fucked up. So the premise for this is it's 1984. Wonder Woman Gal Gadot is has been living her life on Earth since the 1920s, where she met Chris Pine, and Chris Pine dies at the end of the first one. Spoilers. And she literally spends the entire, right up to 1984, just pining and being sorry for herself, having no friends, just working in a museum. And then I think that the thing that the biggest issue is that they went with like the magic route. So there's literally a stone that can grant wishes. And the FBI gives this stone. She haphazardly wishes for Chris Pine to come back. Chris Pine occupies another guy's life. Gal Gadot doesn't see any issues with that. And then at the same time, Pedro Pascal's character comes in and knows all about the stone and knows all about the Greek mythology, and wishes to become the stone and to then become this overlord and supervillain who can grant any wish he wants. And I guess the source behind the wishes is that every single wish has some sort of negative effect. So when Gal wishes for Chris Pine to come back, she loses her powers, and the movie is so incoherent. The even just using magic just seems stupid. The CG is terrible. The final act totally falls apart. I'm not convinced that Gal Gadot can act, or give off the impression that she shows any sort of sympathy. Chris Pine literally occupies another man's body. Gal Gadot goes, I don't care. He even looks the same, but Gal Gadot just literally sleeps with him. It's the whole film is just total nonsense. Save yourself the time. Don't watch it. Yeah. I cannot believe how disappointing it was, especially because I thought that Wonder Woman, the original one, was probably the best DC film, and that's not saying much, but yeah, this was just they cannot make DC any worse. And especially after seeing WandaVision, just the first 2 episodes, I'm like, this is how you do it. Anyways, any comments on that, or just move on to the next film?
Nope.
I have nothing.
I'd say give it a
I
miss.
thought you were talking about Christopher Pine, the Parliament person, the Liberal Party, the one with the posh voice for a bit there, but you obviously weren't. He was quite funny because that comedian always picked on him. I don't know the name, the one that does the Prime Minister, but that was what I was seeing in my head. So I think it's a good watch.
Yeah. So terrible. All right, and the last film I want to talk about is Soul on Disney Plus, the new Pixar film. Did anyone else watch this?
I haven't, but I do want to.
Okay.
So
This is one of those films that you guys need to watch, and maybe I argue to have this as one of the films of the week, 1 week, if you haven't seen it.
So it's animated?
It's animated. Yep. So
it's Pixar, like
it's
Toy
Pixar.
Story and stuff.
Yep.
Ooh, Toy Story. If it's like Toy Story, I'm in.
This is phenomenal. This is probably one of the best Pixar films that I've seen in quite some time. I think that visually it's stunning. The story is fantastic, and I think the message behind the story is even better. And I don't want to ruin it because I think that like the whole plot is what makes the film so great. But like just to give you a little bit of a summary, and I think you guys will like it as well because it's all about music. So it's all about a guy who is super into jazz music and wants to play it, and he thinks that that's his purpose in life. And it's essentially just a story about life, and it's so great. I can't even like. It's one of those films you need to see to understand and watch. So yeah, I recommend Soul to everyone. If you have Disney Plus, it's free. Like they didn't charge a fee like they did with Milan. Yeah, like there's no reason not to watch this. In all honesty, especially if you have Disney Plus, because there's not a whole lot of stuff to watch on Disney Plus unless you're super like into MCU, or
you're just a Disney fanatic,
or you're a Disney fanatic. So this is like, yeah, like Pixar's great.
We'll definitely check it out.
Exactly. All right. Does anyone watch anything else, or is that's it?
Yeah, that's all the ones I think that deserve mentioning from me.
Yep.
I did watch the one that you suggested a while ago, that like this TV series, A Moody Christmas.
Oh,
And
right.
I
Thank you.
have to say that is very, very, very good. Like it's exceptionally good for the depiction of Aussies at Christmas and a big family. It's hilarious.
Thank you. See,
yep.
I can recommend good things. We just need.
You can.
Yeah, I really rated that too.
Broken clocks twice right a day. I fucked that one up.
We know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, one other thing. I know that we don't talk about TV shows lots, but I've been watching The Crown, the one about the Queen.
I just started that.
I've seen the first season. If it helps.
Did you like it, Josh?
First season was alright. I mean, look. Am I being me going to rave about a movie rave about a TV show that sort of glorifies monarchy? Probably not, but the acting's good, the set pieces are good, you know what I mean?
Okay. See, I don't think it glorifies them in any stretch.
Oh, no, I don't think it glorifies them, but it sort of perpetuates a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I'm keen to see what Emily thinks because I have been absolutely loving it. I'm just about to
I think I've watched the first like 4 episodes, but yeah, I'm on board. I'm keen to see where it goes. And I'm actually learning a lot too. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I actually know nothing about the royal family, and they've lived kind of interesting lives.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, it's fascinating. I think that learning about it has been really, really good. All right, but we will finish up there. Thank you so much for listening to episode 24 of the Film School podcast. We're back, and next week we are watching Minari and Zodiac. So if you would like to join us along and watch those, we will be discussing those in detail next week. Until then, have a great one, and we'll catch you. See you guys. Have a good one.
See him.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
What was that, Josh?
Bye, guys.